Please don't
I'm
kick me,
so
I'm already
sorry,
hurt.
please.
The words came out broken, barely a whisper. Sarah's hands were still bleeding from the shattered plates, tiny cuts webbing across her palms. She knelt on the marble floor of Giovanni's, the city's most exclusive restaurant, surrounded by broken china and the remnants of a $400 lobster thermidor. Above her, restaurant manager Victoria Cross stood with her Laubautin heel raised. "You clumsy little rat," Victoria hissed. "You have any idea what you've just cost us?" The dinner rush had gone silent. 50 wealthy diners, forks frozen mid-air, watched the scene unfold. None of them moved to help. Sarah tried to stand, but her ankle gave out. She twisted it on the spill, Alfredo sauce, now mixing with blood on the pristine floor. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean, the tray was too heavy, I told you I needed help." "Help." Victoria's laugh cut through the restaurant. "You've been here 3 months. 3, you should be able to handle a simple order by now." In the corner booth, a man in a plain grey suit watched. He'd been coming to Giovanni's for a week, always alone, always ordering the cheapest item on the menu. The servers had started calling him the regular nobody. His name was James Chen, and he was very interested in what happened next. Sarah's co-worker Marcus took a step forward. "Victoria, maybe we should—" "You take one more step, Marcus, and you're fired too." Victoria's eyes never left Sarah. "As for you, this is coming out of your paycheck, all of it. The plates, the food, the disruption to our guests' dining experience." That's 3 weeks of salary," Sarah said, her voice cracked. "My daughter needs her medication. I can't. Should have thought about that before you decided to play circus act with our dishes." The man in the grey suit, James, had seen enough. He'd spent 7 days undercover in his own restaurant, watching, learning. His corporate office had received 3 anonymous complaints about Giovanni's management in the past month. All mentioned Victoria Cross by name, all described a culture of fear and abuse. But nothing had prepared him for this. James stood, every eye in the restaurant shifted to him. "Excuse me," he said, walking toward them. His voice was calm, quiet. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." Victoria spun on him. "Sir, please return to your seat. This is a staff matter." "Is it?" James knelt beside Sarah, pulling a clean handkerchief from his pocket. He gently wrapped it around her bleeding hand. "Because from where I was sitting, it looked like assault." "How dare you?" Victoria's face flushed crimson. "Security!" 2 large men in suits started toward James. He held up one hand. "Before you gentlemen escort me out, you might want to know who I am." James pulled out his phone, typed something, and held it up. Victoria leaned in to read the screen. The color drained from her face. That's not possible." "Oh, it's very possible." James helped Sarah to her feet, supporting her weight. "I'm James Chen. I own this restaurant. I own all 12 Giovanni's locations across the state, and I've been eating your discount pasta for a week, watching you terrorize my staff." The restaurant erupted in whispers. Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Mr. Chen, I didn't recognize you without. The corporate photos always show you in expensive suits." James guided Sarah to a chair. "Yeah, I prefer comfort. Marcus, please get the first aid kit. Sarah needs proper bandaging." Marcus practically ran to the back. Victoria was spiraling, her hands fluttering. "Sir, if I'd known you were here, I never would have. This girl is always causing problems. Just last week she—" "Stop talking." The command was soft, but Victoria's jaw snapped shut. "Sarah," James said, "tell me what happened. The truth." Sarah's eyes darted between him and Victoria. Fear lived in that glance. The tray was loaded with 4 entrees. I told Victoria it was too heavy, that the policy is 2 plates maximum for safety. She said I was being lazy, that if I couldn't handle it, she'd find someone who could." James turned to Victoria. "Is this true? I was trying to improve efficiency. Is it true?" Victoria's shoulders sagged. "The kitchen was backed up. We needed to get orders out faster." "So you overloaded her tray against safety protocols I specifically implemented, and when the inevitable happened, you threatened to assault her. Do I have that right?" Silence. Marcus returned with the first aid kit. James took it, but instead of tending to Sarah himself, he handed it to Marcus. "Take care of your colleague, please. Make sure she sees a doctor for that ankle." Then James stood and faced the entire restaurant. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption to your evening. Your meals tonight are complimentary courtesy of Giovanni's. He turned to Victoria. You're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. You can't. I've worked here for 8 years. You've bullied here for 8 years. There's a difference. James pulled out his phone again, scrolling. I have emails from 7 different employees who quit because of you. 7. All citing hostile work environment, all afraid to use your name in case you blacklisted them in the industry. Victoria's eyes went wide. You have no proof. Jennifer Martinez. Quit March 15th after you threw a plate at her head, missed by 2 inches. James's voice was steel now. David Song. Quit April 3rd after you told him his accent was too ethnic for front of house. Should I continue? The watching diners had gone silent again. Several were recording on their phones. Victoria lunged forward, desperation cracking her polished veneer. Please, Mr. Chen, I have a mortgage, I have expenses, you can't just throw away 8 years over one mistake. One mistake? James's laugh was bitter. Sarah, how many times has Victoria berated you in 3 months? Sarah looked down at her bandaged hands. Every shift. Marcus, the young man swallowed hard. She's made 3 servers cry this week alone. Sir, James turned back to Victoria. Your severance will be the legal minimum. I suggest you leave before I decide to prosecute for workplace assault and harassment. Victoria's face twisted with rage and humiliation. For a moment, James thought she might actually swing at him. But then her shoulders collapsed, and she walked toward the exit, heels clicking on marble like a countdown. When the door closed behind her, the restaurant seemed to exhale collectively. James addressed his staff. Everyone, I need you to listen carefully. I'm shutting down for the rest of the night. You'll all be paid for a full shift. Tomorrow, we're having a company-wide meeting about management practices and workplace safety. He paused. And if anyone, manager, chef, or otherwise, has been treating you the way Victoria treated Sarah, you're going to have a confidential way to report it. No retaliation. That's a promise. Slowly, tentatively, the staff began to clap. It started with Marcus, then spread to the other servers, then the kitchen staff who'd gathered in the doorway. Even some of the diners joined in. James waved it off, embarrassed. Sarah, let's get you to urgent care. I can't afford. It's workman's comp. Your injury happened on the job because of management negligence. Giovanni's covers everything. He helped her toward the door, then paused. And you're getting Victoria's salary for the next 3 weeks to cover what she tried to take from you. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time, not from pain. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. James thought about that, about the anonymous complaints he'd almost ignored, about how easy it would have been to just trust his management reports and never see the truth. 3 years ago, I was a line cook, he said, working 18-hour shifts for minimum wage. My manager was a guy named Rick who thought throwing hot pans near us was motivation. One day, he did it while the owner was visiting. The owner fired him on the spot, promoted me to sous chef, and told me something I've never forgotten. What did he say? He said, the best leaders don't create fear, they create safety. And if your people aren't safe, your business isn't worth running. James opened the door for her. That owner mentored me, invested in me, helped me open my first restaurant. He died 2 years ago, but I promised him I'd build something different, something better. Sarah wiped her eyes. I think he'd be proud. I think he'd be furious it took me this long to notice what was happening in my own restaurants. James pulled out his keys. Come on, let's get you patched up properly, then we'll talk about what actually happened to those 7 employees who quit, and whether any of them want their jobs back under new management. 3 weeks later, Sarah walked into Giovanni's for her shift. Her ankle had healed, minor sprain, the doctor said. The cuts on her hands had faded to thin pink lines, but the restaurant itself had transformed. The staff room had new chairs, comfortable ones. The kitchen had been reorganized so no one had to carry dangerous loads, and there was a new manager, Marcus, who'd been promoted after 3 other servers vouched for his kindness. Most importantly, there was a framed policy on the wall. Respect isn't a privilege, it's a requirement. If you see abuse, report it. If you experience abuse, you'll be believed. Safety first. Always. James Chen, owner Sarah, was tying her apron when Marcus poked his head in. Hey, table 12 is asking for you specifically. Me, Why? Marcus grinned. Go see. She walked out to the dining room and her breath caught. Sitting at table 12 was an elderly Asian man in an expensive suit, and standing next to him, smiling, was James. Sarah, James said, I'd like you to meet David Song. He worked here until April. Sarah remembered the name from that night. The man Victoria had fired for his accent. David stood and shook her hand warmly. James told me what happened, what you survived. I wanted to meet the person who helped expose what was really going on here. I didn't do anything. James is the one who… You told the truth when it mattered, David interrupted gently. That takes courage, especially when you're afraid. James pulled out a chair for Sarah. David's going to be our new regional manager, overseeing all 12 locations, and we're implementing his idea, quarterly anonymous surveys for all staff, reviewed by an outside HR firm. I don't want what happened to me to happen to anyone else, David said, and I don't want what happened to you to ever happen again. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes for the second time in 3 weeks. But these were different. These were the kind that came when the world revealed it could be kinder than you'd ever dared to hope. Thank you, she whispered. Both of you. James shook his head. Thank you. You could have stayed silent that night, agreed with Victoria to save your job, but you didn't. You told the truth even when you were hurt and scared. He paused. That's the kind of integrity I want in my company. So I have a question for you. What? How would you feel about training as an assistant manager? Marcus suggested it, said you're the hardest worker here and you always look out for the other staff. Sarah's mouth fell open. I don't have any management experience. Neither did I when I started, but you have something better. You know what it feels like to be treated badly. Which means you'll never do it to someone else. James smiled. Think about it, no pressure, but the offer stands. Sarah looked around the restaurant, at Marcus giving her a thumbs up from across the room, at David nodding encouragement, at the other servers, her friends, who'd survived alongside her. She thought about her daughter at home and the medical bills that never seemed to end. She thought about the fear she'd carried every shift, wondering when Victoria's cruelty would strike next. And she thought about the man who'd knelt on a dirty floor to bandage her hands when everyone else had simply watched. Okay, she said. Yes, I'll do it. James's smile widened. Excellent, you start training Monday, same pay as Victoria was making. As Sarah walked back to start her shift, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope, and in a corner booth, a middle-aged woman in a business suit watched the interaction with narrowed eyes. She'd come to Giovanni's after hearing rumors about the ownership change. She owned 3 restaurants of her own, and her management style was similar to Victoria's. But watching Sarah's transformation and the loyalty it created in James's staff, she found herself wondering, maybe there was a better way. Maybe safety wasn't weakness. Maybe kindness wasn't a flaw in the system. Maybe it was the whole point. She pulled out her phone and made a note. Call HR Monday. Review all management protocols. Sometimes change starts with a woman on the floor, bleeding and afraid, asking not to be hurt more, and sometimes it starts with one person choosing to kneel down and help her up. The rest is just dominoes falling.